What's poppin', my fellow turtle lovers? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show. This is about to be a breakdown for TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze. So grab yourself a slice of pizza and let's just get into this thing. And before the movie even starts, we get a loving tribute to legendary puppeteer Jim Henson, who, together with the other extremely brilliant and talented people at Jim Henson's Creature Shop, expertly brought 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to life in the first 1990 movie. Jim Henson actually passed away on May 16, 1990, only a few short weeks after TMNT 1 released on March 30th. The sequel, Secret of the Ooze, would be developed and released a little less than a year later on March 22, 1991. Jim Henson's Creature Shop would also return for the sequel, but without the involvement of Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson, who served as second unit director and chief puppeteer on the first TMNT movie. Brian Henson wasn't all that interested in doing another Turtles movie at the time, especially since his homie Steve Barron wasn't going to return to direct the sequel. Because the film's producers at Golden Harvest desired a significantly lighter tone for the sequel that would be friendlier to parents and toy manufacturers alike, Turtles 1 director Steve Barron wasn't vibing with the sanitation of his original vision. Steve valued the darker, grimier atmosphere that made the original film great, so much so that he straight up declined to do the second movie, leading the studio to eventually tap Michael Pressman to direct this extremely rushed production. And in my opinion, if anybody is to blame for the shortcomings of this disappointing Ninja Turtle sequel, it's 100% on producer Thomas Gray and all the higher-ups at Golden Harvest, primarily because of how lightning fast and budget-friendly they wanted this film to get made. I mean, Gray and Golden Harvest were extremely hard to convince when producing the 1990s TMNT film in the first place, as they thought the idea of having a bunch of dudes in turtle costumes was only going to set the studio up to release the next Howard the Duck or Masters of the Universe cinematic dumpster fire. However, when Steve Barron's vision caused the studio to rake in $135 million in North America alone before making around $202 million globally, Golden Harvest figured that they had to capitalize on the turtle mania taking over the entire planet before everybody realized that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a ridiculous idea that would never last several decades after this movie. And so Tom Gray and Golden Harvest set a Turtles 2 production into light speed. But instead of giving the sequel more money to make sure it improved on the original, Golden Harvest went full Eugene Krabs and had an iron grip on their money, being far less flexible with any creative decision that could possibly go over budget than they were with Steve Barron. But to be fair, I guess Golden Harvest aren't the only ones to blame for the sanitation of Secret of the Ooze, because a good chunk of that blame does belong on the goddamn whiner baby parents that all managed to find each other, link arms, and complain in unison about all the violence from the first movie. Fearing that impressionable children would want to replicate the fighting moves of the Turtles, not only did parents direct their hate mail at Golden Harvest, but some administrators even considered or enacted Ninja Turtles bans at their schools, and some parental groups even offered to exchange Ninja Turtles toys for teddy bears and whatnot. Like, the turtle mania phobia was out of control, man. This over-exaggerated, fearful backlash from parents in response to TMNT 1 then prompted Golden Harvest to attempt to appease these organized whiner babies by making Secret of the Ooze less like its predecessor and more lighthearted and bright like the Ninja Turtles cartoon from the 1980s. And this decision bummed out original Ninja Turtles comic book creators Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman hardcore, who deeply desired this movie franchise to continue using inspiration from the grittier tone of the original comic book iteration of the Turtles, and were specifically against making Secret of the Ooze anything like the animated series. According to Peter Laird on his blog, one main concern is that the second or any subsequent movie stay as much away from the cartoon show and as close to the original black and white comics as the first movie did. We don't want to see Bebop and Rocksteady or Krang or any of the other goofy characters. We feel that there is plenty of material in the black and white books to form the basis for another good movie. Peter Laird would go on to pitch an idea for a sequel that included a more comics-accurate introduction of the Techno-Cosmic Research Institute, or TCRI, that was responsible for the development of the ooze that mutated the Turtles. Just like what happened in the comics, with the true secret of the ooze being that this mutagen was actually developed by an alien race. TCRI would then be revealed to be secretly comprised of these tiny, squishy, basketball-sized aliens called the Utroms, operating a bunch of human-looking robot bodies, with the evil genius Baxter Stockman amongst their number, also being revealed as one of these aliens as well, something that never actually happened in Laird's original comic. This alien Baxter would then create his famous robotic rat-exterminating Mausers to gain a contract with New York City to aid in their massive rat infestation problem, with alien Baxter Stockman's main goal being to raise the money necessary for the construction of a teleportation device to beam all the Utroms back to their home planet. The Turtles would have eventually found TCRI, broke into the TCRI building with the help of Michael Turney's Danny Pennington from the first movie, and accidentally triggered the Utrom's teleportation machine while fighting with them, with the energy surge from the transmat machine snatching the power from all the buildings in a 10-block radius of the TCRI building. However, as a result, the extra-dimensional aliens known as the Triceratons come through this teleporter and start doing battle with both the Utroms and Turtles at the same time. But after dealing with the Triceratons, the movie would have ended with the Turtles forging a truce with the Utrom race and Donatello helping them fix their teleportation machine, all while the rest of the Turtles fight with the NYPD and National Guard to buy Donnie and the Utrons more time. But of course, the Turtles succeed right before the TCRI building self-destructs, and all would be well once more in Turtletown, USA. However, while using the Utrom and Triceratons alien races was one of Peter Laird's favorite ideas, another idea that he suggested was having the Ninja Turtles fight the villain, the Rat King, who made his first appearance in 1988's Tales of the TMNT #4, an idea that I personally find to be super dope. But all of Peter Laird's visions would have also likely and sensibly included the fan favorite and totally badass Casey Jones, ideally with Elias Koteas reprising the role, as Peter Laird envisioned a love triangle between Casey Jones, April O'Neil, and April's Channel 3 boss Charles Pennington from the first movie, with April having to choose between a cool-ass sports-themed vigilante with a full head of hair or, the undisputed mayor of Squaresville, who, might I add, is balding. Like, what are you doing, Chuck? Just shave the whole thing off like I do. It'll shave like 30 years off your old man-looking ass. Trust me. But, like I said before, none of Peter Laird's or Kevin Eastman's desires for a cosmic sequel inspired by issues 2, 3, 4, and 7 of their original comic would happen for Secret of the Ooze, especially the inclusion of Casey Jones, who Golden Harvest decided to completely remove from the sequel due to parental complaints that the Casey Jones character looked too scary, even going as far to compare Casey Jones to the menacing Jason from the Friday the 13th horror movie franchise. Man, if those parents thought Casey Jones and Jason were scary, just wait till they find out about the most terrifying TV program sweeping the nation in popularity called regular ass TV hockey. Like, goddamn, man, y'all have never seen a hockey mask before? Like, my ass is blacker than Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z, and even I know about hockey. Get it together, parents from 30 years ago. Jeez. Just kidding about the Mr. Popo thing, by the way, because, let's be real, ain't nobody blacker than Mr. Popo. That man was blacker than sin itself. Anyways, because of these stupid-ass complaints, a completely new and original character named Keno was introduced to replace Casey Jones in Secret of the Ooze, as played by actor and talented martial artist Ernie Reyes Jr. Ernie actually played a pretty damn big role in the first Ninja Turtles movie, but we really didn't get to see him a whole lot, as Ernie was the in-suit stunt performer for Donatello. But this time around, Ernie is out the damn suit entirely as the completely unhinged Roy's pizza delivery boy named Keno, whose character is introduced by calling a group of women who rejected his risless attempts at flirtation fat, which is absolutely wild. But instead of delivering yet another pizza to the household of April O'Neil, crazy-ass Keno spots a van filled with stolen CD players and 19-inch color TVs, and decides to make the crimes of strangers his own problem instead of delivering pizza to a hot news lady like God intended for his life. And not even stopping to put April's pizza down, Keno heads to the scene of the crime, where he finds the pantyhose perpetrators that he's looking for, who are attempting to steal as much as they can from the electronics, toys, and sporting goods stores in this mini-mall. Embracing his true identity as some type of Power Ranger, Keno decides to kick himself into action, using his martial arts training to make short work of the first 3 goons. But of course, eventually, the rest of the gang shows up to beat this nosy kid's ass, causing the Turtles to come in behind Keno to provide some much-needed professional ninja assistance of the Teenage Mutant variety. And after the Turtles make their way down the stairs, if you slow down the footage, you can actually see Mikey and Donnie clearly jumping on some type of trampoline off screen before we get this quick freeze frame of all 4 turtles flying through the air as the logo of the movie comes in. This freeze frame is of course a slight nod to the very first TMNT film that did a similar mid-air freeze frame with Donatello's shadow as that movie's logo came into frame. And just like the first film, the turtles follow their title jumping freeze frame by saying one word that describes how excited they are to kick the asses of even more 15 to 30-year-old men. Leo started off by saying awesome like he did in the first movie, before Raphael would follow that up with a wicked and Donnie with an eclectic, causing Mikey to make fun of his nerdy brother, flexing his vocabulary just like Mikey did in the first movie after Donnie would say bossa nova. Then Raphael would grab Kino and shove him into a nearby trash can to keep him safe from all of the fighting, causing Kino to struggle to remove himself from said trash can, just like Raphael had to when Casey Jones trashed him in the first movie. And as the turtles fight, you could immediately see how toned down the fight choreography was in comparison to TMNT 1. None of the bad guys ever really try to land a hit on the turtles, whereas the turtles are pretty much free to punch and kick as they choose. This is largely in part to how Jim Henson's Creature Shop designed the turtle suits. The poor sweaty men inside of all these suits literally could not see a damn thing at all. And if you look at the faces of the turtles themselves, right underneath their masks is a little slit of a gap for the suit actors to see through. So with only that tiny freaking hole to see through, the suit actors couldn't really throw that many punches and kicks without completely whiffing it more than half of the time. Also, take notice how 3 of 4 of these turtles are deliberately choosing to not use any of their weapons to try to hurt their enemies, with Donatello seemingly being the only one smart enough to remember that Splinter deliberately gave him the gift of delivering blunt force trauma to his enemies for a reason. And as Mikey is using his ninja yo-yo skills to take care of some goons inside of a toy store, behind him on a counter you can actually see a stuffed Triceratops, a likely nod to the Triceratons from the original comics. But of course the turtles make quick work of these pantyhose punks before taking the pizza that they ordered back to their temporary home across the street at April O'Neil's apartment. The following scene then shows April O'Neil arriving at her apartment, but this time with a completely new and younger face that she had in the first movie, as actress Paige Turco would take over the role of April O'Neil from Turtles 1 actress Judith Hoag. This is largely in part to Judith not really vibing all that well with the producers while shooting Turtles 1, as she would apparently routinely argue with them about a number of creative and production decisions, including the amount of violence that was in the movie. So for those reasons, Judith was not asked to return, but Golden Harvest felt like Paige Turco had a much better chemistry with the Turtles anyway, and this role would actually be Paige's first ever film role in Hollywood after she started her on-screen career starring in the 1987 TV show Guiding Light. Judith Hoag isn't the only actor from the first movie to be replaced, as voice actor Laurie Faso would replace Raphael voice and in-suit actor Josh Pais, while Adam Carl would replace Corey Feldman, who voiced Donatello. Actor Corey Feldman was apparently specifically not asked to return out of fear that his drug rehab treatment at the time for heroin would draw bad press towards the movie. However, fortunately and unfortunately for Feldman, he would be asked to return for the third Ninja Turtles movie, which is universally known as the absolute worst Ninja Turtles movie of all time. As April approaches the front door of her apartment, she runs into a couple exiting the building, with the male of that couple actually being Michelangelo's in-suit actor, Michelin Sisti, with Sisti once again playing Michelangelo in this movie just like he did in the last. And also, fun fact, this exterior of April's apartment used here is actually the exterior to the New York offices of Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which is kind of fun. And then, as April cleans up the apartment that the turtles crashed with their teenage untidiness, she picks up a stack of comic books, with the comic book on top being what looks like a copy of Uncanny X-Men 269 from October 1990, confirming that Marvel Comics do exist in this movie universe. It actually took me an absurdly long time to try to find out what comic book cover that was. So, in the words of the prolific prophet Jeb Bush, please clap. I also found the inclusion of the Turtles reading an X-Men comic to be a nice touch, considering that the X-Men themselves are also mutants. Also, super random detail about April's apartment, but one of the mirrors on her walls straight up looks like a ninja shuriken, which I thought was a really nice touch. But anyways, the Turtles then arrive back to April's apartment with their pizza and start trying to make even more mess while simultaneously recapping the events of the first movie, including the supposed demise of Shredder after he fell off a roof into a garbage truck that Casey Jones accidentally used to crush him.
Oops!
See? Casey said oops, so that's how you know it was an accident. Casey's not guilty of murder. Attempted murder maybe, but not murder. But do you know who doesn't think it was an accident? The Shredder himself, who apparently did not die from the garbage truck and pretty much immediately claws his way out of the junkyard pile that he was dumped in. The live-action actor for the Shredder was also recast from the first movie, as actor Francois Chow would replace actor James Saito. However, despite this change, Shredder's voice actor would still remain the same, with David McCarran coming back for the sequel. The character of Tatsu, Shredder's right-hand man from the first film, has his actor Toshihiro Obata reprising the role alongside his English voice actor Michael McConaughey. Not to be confused with Matthew McConaughey, but honestly, that would be kind of hilarious if Tatsu had Matthew McConaughey's voice. He'd be all like, the Shredder's back, alright. Tatsu would be the leader of the Foot Clan for a whopping 2 seconds before Shredder would appear at the Foot Clan's doorstep, declaring that they should focus all of their energies on revenge rather than rebuilding the Foot Clan. But what's odd about Shredder's return is that he comes back with his armor barely destroyed or dented, which is kind of odd considering that we literally saw Shredder's mask get crushed under the weight of all that trash compression. But hey, it's a kid's movie, so like, who cares, really? It doesn't really matter all that much. But anyways, after this, we are brought to April O'Neil interviewing TGRI scientist Jordan Perry, played by actor David Warner. The character of Jordan Perry was very much inspired by the Ninja Turtles character Baxter Stockman, but instead of being evil, Dr. Perry plays a completely morally sound scientist that actually cares about cleaning up the chemical pollution that TGRI has caused. David Warner was actually relieved when he heard that his character was going to be a completely good guy, as he spent a good chunk of his career playing villainous characters, like how he played the villainous Commander Sark in the 1982 Tron movie. And you'll probably notice that the name of the corporation is TGRI in this movie instead of TCRI like it is in the comics. In this movie, TGRI stands for Techno Global Research Industries, whereas the TCRI acronym from the original Mirage comic stands for Techno Cosmic Research Institute. Because Golden Harvest wanted to give the Ninja Turtles an origin that wasn't as cosmic or alien as Eastman and Laird originally envisioned, they decided to replace the cosmic with global to more closely align with the origin of the ooze in this universe. As we would learn later on from Professor Perry, that the mutagen was merely the result of a mixture of a bunch of toxic chemicals mankind tossed into nature, somehow getting hit with a crazy amount of unknown type of radiation. This differs greatly from the source material, of course, as the Utrom alien race that founded TCRI in the comics accidentally created the mutagen ooze in their efforts to create a teleporter strong enough to send them back to their home world. But speaking of Utroms, there was originally an idea to reveal Jordan Perry as an Utrom in disguise at some point in this movie's production. However, Golden Harvest would ultimately decide against that, as they worried that the general audience would confuse the alien Utrom inside of that Jordan Perry exoskeleton to be the cartoon Ninja Turtles arch-nemesis Krang, who technically was not an Utrom at all, even though he looked a lot like one of the members of the Utrom race. The Krang character was actually originally created for the cartoon, with his design taking a lot of inspiration from the Utroms. The character of Krang would not be made into a proper member of the Utrom race until around the 2012 animated series. Anyways, another detail that conflicts with the comic books is, of course, April O'Neil's association with Channel 3 in this universe, as Channel 6 is where comic book and cartoon April O'Neil is usually at. And while watching the nerdy Professor Perry talk on TV, Raphael complains and asks his brothers if he can watch Oprah's talk show instead. But Master Splinter keeps them from changing the channel once he realizes the report is about TGRI. Then, to celebrate Daddy Shredder's return, one of his new ninja spies at Channel 3 gets him some welcome back flowers in the form of a huge mutated dandelion, a side effect of the local TGRI chemical pollution. Shredder then quickly figures that if this TGRI stuff can make dandelions bigger, then maybe this ooze can make certain other things bigger, if you know what I mean. Just kidding. Later that night, April comes home to the Turtles cleaning up their mess, with Mikey even referencing the 1984 Karate Kid film with a wax on, wax off joke. But hey, what's Master Splinter been doing ever since he saw April O'Neil on the TV?
Coming
Ew.
to a decision.
Oh. Voice actor Kevin Clash returns as the voice of Master Splinter from the first movie. And not only does Kevin Clash voice Master Splinter, but he also puppeteered him as well, alongside Ricky Boyd and Sue Dacker.
Splinter's mostly worked like a puppet. I put my hand up inside of Splinter to work him. We do have another performer that actually does the expressions on Splinter's face. And we also have a puppeteer that does both arms of Splinter. So It takes about 3 people to make Splinter work.
The Turtles, on the other hand, are brought to life a little bit differently, with actors of course inside of the suits to move their bodies, while a group of puppeteers behind the camera recite the lines of each of the Turtles while simultaneously remotely puppeting the Turtles' animatronic mouths off screen. Then the Turtle voice actors just dub over the on-set puppeteers' lines in post.
First, we should observe the ancient ritual of the, traditional
pre-fight donut!
Yeah!
And while on the roof of April's apartment, Splinter reveals to the Turtles the broken TGRI canister that was responsible for their rapid evolution 15 years ago. This leads the Turtles to breaking into TGRI's headquarters through the roof, just like the comic book Turtles did on the rooftop of the TCRI building in issue 4 of the Mirage comics. However, the Turtles are too late, as Tatsu and the Foot Clan had already stopped by much earlier and stole the last of the ooze, just as Dr. Perry was about to dispose of it. But since Tatsu is so much of a goddamn hater, he decided to stay behind and just hide inside of the TGRI building just so he can taunt the Turtles with the ooze on the extremely off chance the Turtles magically decided to stop by the building. However, the one thing that struck me as super odd about this TGRI lab is how there appears to be a whole-ass Utrom brain at the very center of this middle pyramid structure, which kind of makes me feel like this could have been a leftover from the Professor Perry Utrom plot that they ended up scrapping. But anyways, as the Turtles fight the Foot, at one point they decide to stop mid-fight to convene in a little huddle, much like they did in the first movie when they were fighting Shredder. But then after Tatsu is done flexing his victory on the Turtles, he and the Foot Clan disappear into the night, causing the Turtles to have to take a big fat L. Returning to April's apartment, the Turtles begin packing their things in order to find a place of their own. As Mikey packs, he talks to a poster of supermodel Paulina Periskova like she's his girlfriend, which is completely relatable, as I do the same with my 19 posters of Haley Steinfeld that I hang in my kitchen, because those posters are too hot to keep in my bedroom. But suddenly, April gets a surprise visit from Kino, the unhinged pizza delivery boy, with a free pizza for April. Kino's sudden arrival forces the Turtles to have to hide in April O'Neil's apartment yet again, just like they were forced to in the first movie when the Penningtons stopped by. When Kino finds Mikey's nunchucks on the counter, April tries to act like she likes to use them from time to time before poorly swinging them around, leading Kino to tell her to keep practicing, with keep practicing being the exact words Michaelangelo told a Foot Clan nunchucker in TMNT 1 after their face-off. Kino then quickly discovers the Turtles, and soon after, Master Splinter himself, causing Kino to faint much like April O'Neil did in the first movie. Also similarly to April, Kino would then listen to Master Splinter's origin of the Turtles as soon as he came to. And at the end of the story, the Turtles then introduced themselves in the same order that Splinter introduced them to April in the prequel: Leonardo, Michaelangelo, Donatello, then Raphael. A little later, April then walks with the Turtles as they make their way back to the sewers underground, with Mikey saying goodbye by doing an impression of Humphrey Bogart from 1942's Casablanca, another nod to the first film when Mikey did impressions of various movie actors just to make April laugh. And while the Turtles search for a new home in the sewers, Raph gets fed up and splits from the group, only for Mikey to stumble upon the perfect new home seconds later in the form of an abandoned subway station filled with cobwebs. And it's a station apparently modeled after the City Hall station in New York City. And later, April then tries to convince her manager at Channel 3 that the TGRI story is worth pursuing. But her manager, played by the director Michael Pressman, does not agree, wanting her to talk about swimsuits in the 90s instead. Their argument is then interrupted by one of April's coworkers, who informs her that she has a phone call, with that coworker actually being Leonardo suit actor Mark Queso. April answers the phone and learns from Donatello that they all found a new place, but also can't find Raphael. But it turns out Raphael is out on the streets encouraging the youths to join the Foot Clan. Those parents were right. The Turtles are a terrible influence. Just kidding. Raphael is apparently coaching Kino on what to do as he attempts to infiltrate the Foot Clan as a new recruit. And while all of those Foot Clan hopefuls meet near the Manhattan Bridge, we can actually see a young Michael Jai White amongst them in a leather jacket, a potential huge win for the Shredder, as Michael Jai White's martial arts skills are a force to be reckoned with, man. But unfortunately, the Shredder has an absolute dumbass in charge of recruitment, who apparently finds Kino to be the only one amongst them worthy to join the Foot Clan. And as Kino is led to their secret junkyard hideout, Raph follows them, which kind of makes you wonder why Raph and Kino didn't just, follow the recruitment guy without having to go through Shredder cheerleading tryouts, especially since Kino blows his cover pretty much immediately when Shredder spots his new recruit fraternizing with a gigantic turtle man. And after a few kicks and punches and various rated PG violence, Kino manages to escape, leaving Raph with the Shredder. Kino then runs across the Brooklyn Bridge and quickly makes his way to April's house to tell the Turtles what happened to their brother, causing the Turtles to immediately head to the junkyard. And because the Turtles are apparently dumbasses in this movie, they didn't notice the massive net on the ground that Shredder left behind to trap them. But not so fun fact about that moment though, when the Turtles fall as the net captures them, one of the stuntmen in the Turtles costume actually broke their ankle, which is a huge bummer. And as the Turtles struggle inside of the net, one of the Turtles say that the net is very well constructed, to which Mikey sarcastically replies that he's going to call Ralph Nader and thank him for that, with political activist Ralph Nader having been a strong proponent for worker safety. So Mikey was merely implying that Ralph Nader's influence is why the net was so strong. Really weird choice to put such a vague political joke in a kid's movie, but hey, I'm sure all those square-ass parents at the time thought that joke was hilarious. However, before Shredder could make himself some half-shell shish kebabs, Splinter appears out of nowhere with his bow and arrow and frees the Turtles from captivity. An angered Shredder then finally decides to release his secret weapons, mutated versions of two of the most vicious animals Tatsu and his band of ninja thieves could find, a wolf and a snapping turtle. Okay, like, really, Tatsu? I mean, the wolf is okay, but like, a snapping turtle? Word? Like, you couldn't stop by the Central Park Zoo and pick up a leopard or a bear or something? You stupid, Tatsu. Anyway, Shredder would name the snapping turtle Toka and the wolf Razor, with these two being original creations for the movie, as Eastman and Laird weren't huge fans of using the characters Bebop and Rocksteady, as those two mutants were too associated with the 1987 cartoon series. However, Toka and Razor would eventually find their way into a number of turtle media in the future, including the 1987, 2003, and 2012 Turtles cartoons, as well as some comics. The two would also appear as bosses in the TMNT 4 Turtles in Time video game, as well as the more recent Shredder's Revenge video game. But when the Turtles see that Toka and Razor are a little bit too tough for them, they grab Raph and Professor Perry and skedaddle themselves through a sewer hole back to their lair. Perry then tells the Turtles the circumstances of how they came to be, informing them that a truck carrying all that irradiated chemical ooze crashed while avoiding a collision, causing TGRI to lose one of the ooze canisters down a sewer hole 15 years ago. This is actually quite comics accurate, as the Turtles' origin in the comics was purposely meant to be a parody of that of Marvel's Daredevil, who was blinded by the toxic chemicals in a truck as a kid after attempting to save someone from getting run over by said truck. And this isn't the only way the Ninja Turtles took inspiration from Marvel's Daredevil, as Master Splinter's name is actually a parody of Matt Murdock's old mentor named Stick. Since Splinter was originally a tiny rat, Eastman and Laird decided that he was going to be a tiny stick type figure for the Turtles, and a tiny stick is just a Splinter. I love creative stuff like that. The revelation that their origin was just one big chemical accident is most disappointing to Donatello, who figured that their origin was a lot more spectacular in nature, which is ironic considering that their comic book origins, rooted in the Utrom race, is a lot more spectacular than this movie's origin. But in order to lure the Turtles out, Shredder decides to unleash Toka and Razor on the streets of New York to wreck as much as they could in sight, rather than, using them to like rob a bank or something so they didn't have to live in a freaking junkyard anymore. But hey, Shredder's brain did get a little bit crushed by a garbage truck not too long ago, so I'm gonna let his nonsensical thirst for vengeance slide. In response to all this destruction, both Channel 3 and the NYPD inspect the scene the following day, with Raymond Serra reprising his role as Police Chief Stern from the first movie. And just like the prequel, Stern ain't got no time for April O'Neil and her ramblings about how two big-ass animals were responsible for the wreckage. But right when April's about to leave the scene, she's like half abducted by two members of the Foot Clan, before one of these perfectly trained ninjas takes his mask off and reveals himself to be that new Channel 3 hire. But instead of taking April outright, they leave her to deliver the Turtles the message that if they don't all assemble at the local construction site tonight, Shredder was going to send his mutant babies to Central Park to attack innocent civilians. In order to prepare for the battle, Professor Perry resolves to create an antidote to reverse Toka and Razor's mutations. And as the Turtles help him mix all the ingredients together, you can see that the Turtles have set up a little recycling area in their new lair, very much underscoring this movie's anti-pollution theme. And after mixing up this anti-mutagen, Professor Perry grabs one of the turtle's glass cups to pour it in, with this glass cup having a picture of Bart Simpson from The Simpsons on it, a character who has been known to say cowabunga on the show, just like the turtles do. However, Bart Simpson doesn't actually say cowabunga as often as people might think, as he's only really said it a few times over the course of the series. But anyways, in order to get Tokka and Razor to consume the anti-mutagen, Mikey comes up with the idea to hide the solution inside of some donuts. And when the turtles arrive at the construction site, Donatello asks Mikey if he's sure his plan is going to work, to which Mikey replies, "Is Schwarzenegger hard to spell?" referring to action movie legend Arnold Schwarzenegger. And to be fair, I can't spell Schwarzenegger if my life depended on it. I literally spelled it wrong in the script, which is hilarious. And when the Shredder and the Foot suddenly emerge from the shadows to surround the turtles, Mikey makes another pop culture reference by saying that the wide world of sports should be televising this, referring to the sports program that aired from 1961 to 1997, highlighting sports across the world that rarely ever got the global spotlight. Then Shredder brings out Tokka and Razor for a gladiator-style fight to the death, a fight that doesn't start until the turtles trick them into eating one anti-mutagen donut each. But as soon as the baby mutants discover the anti-mutagen cubes inside the donuts, they begin their attack on the turtles. Their fight would eventually lead Mikey to getting twirled around and launched into a nearby wooden wall that collapses to reveal the name of the Dock Shore Club in graffiti, a club where the two-hit wonder of the 90s, Vanilla Ice, was performing. As the fight spills into the club, we can see that Vanilla Ice is performing on stage with DJ Earthquake, with the two of them having written the ninja rap song exclusively for this movie. And speaking of this ninja rap, there was apparently this rumor flying around that comic book writer Frank Miller also had a hand in writing this ninja rap alongside Vanilla Ice and DJ Earthquake, but that has since been revealed to be a really weird urban legend. But anyways, as Vanilla Ice performs this ninja rap on stage, like he somehow predicted this exact scenario was going to happen, the turtles battle Tokka and Razor and eventually realize that the carbon dioxide found in nearby fire extinguishers is the final ingredient they need to activate the anti-mutagen inside of their bodies, which leads us into getting this rather unfortunate camera angle of the turtles shoving the hose of the fire extinguishers into their mouths, quickly turning this Vanilla Ice party into a Diddy party. And after the turtles subdue Tokka and Razor, in come the Foot Clan to do battle. And while Donatello is fighting one of the Foot Clan members, we see him flip one of the enemies over before kicking him in the face on the ground. Apparently another take of this moment exists, which had Donatello suit actor Leif Tilden accidentally knocking the two front teeth off of the Foot Clan stunt actor when Tilden randomly decided to improvise with a freaking roundhouse kick to the face, which is super unfortunate. But anyways, after the turtles kick some foot ass and shake some turtle ass on stage with Vanilla Ice, Shredder suddenly appears on stage with the ooze, threatening to use it on other animals in the future. But suddenly, Keno comes out of nowhere and kicks the ooze out of Shredder's hands, because apparently the turtles couldn't do that themselves. But since Shredder is a fan of proper preparation, he had a backup vial of ooze in his pocket, but would unfortunately be exposed to that vial when Raph pushes Keno into him, starting Shredder's own mutation process. And as the turtles head outside to the dock area, they run into a demutated Tokka and Razor just chilling on the dance floor. Unsure why all of these club goers are perfectly okay with a wild wolf just hanging around them, but then again, alcohol and weed tend to make people a lot more chill about stuff like that. And when they reach the docks, the turtles figure that the Shredder is finally defeated, leading them to all high-five and say cowabunga like they did at the end of the first movie. However, in comes a mutated Super Shredder to ruin their celebration, with Super Shredder actually being played by wrestler Kevin Nash. This would be the first ever appearance of Super Shredder before the character would be adapted in the Turtles Beat 'em Up video games, TMNT 2 Back from the Sewers, TMNT 3 The Manhattan Project, TMNT 4 Turtles in Time, and TMNT Shredder's Revenge. But since Super Shredder is somehow even more of a dumbass than regular Shredder, he ends up ending his own damn self after destroying the support beams that were holding the dock they were all under together. But luckily the turtles were still turtles and used their hard shells to safely float themselves back to the surface, with this shot of their shells emerging from the water being reminiscent of this shot from the original trailer of the first movie. And the movie of course ends with Splinter chastising the turtles for making the front page of the Daily News for publicly dancing to Vanilla Ice's ninja rap. And at the top of the Daily News article is a reference to another article covering the very destruction of the dock. And all's well that ends well, and Keno's crazy ass was never seen again. The end. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of TMNT 2 Secret of the Ooze. Let us know what you guys think of this movie down in the comment section below. You guys can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever I am on the internet, but most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and also hitting the bell to get notifications for every time we upload a video. And like always, hit up that Heavy Spoiler store to get some sweet Heavy Spoilers merch to put on your damn body. But yeah, you guys are amazing for watching this video. I love you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.